welcome everyone. My name is Mark. I'm a personal trainer and sports scientist, and this is a new series I'm producing, and it's called The Most Frequently Asked Questions on the Internet Regarding Health, Fitness and Nutrition. And we already answered two, which was what's the best way to lose fat? And if you lift weights, do you get bigger muscles, especially if you're a female? So if you haven't seen these two videos, click over here or check them out in my description below or on the side or somewhere here. Wherever they are, just check them out. Today we're going to be answering how to get a flat stomach. That's the most searched term on the internet regarding getting into shape, for women especially. How do I get a flat stomach, or how to get a flat stomach? So let's get into this. I'm going to be answering that sort of periodically. This is going to be a short video because this isn't rocket science. So let's get into this and let's have a look at what does a flat stomach actually mean, because it means different things to different people. But as of now, 2016, the end of 2016, the best way of going about it is having a look at magazine covers. And in time, these change. So for example, when you watch adverts at the moment, at least in the UK, you see, let's say, fuller women wearing stuff, advertising plus size clothing lines, which 3 years ago, that would have never happened. Our ideal is like super slim, skinny, in shape, but never overweight or fat. But that changes as we all change. So what does a flat stomach mean nowadays? It means this lean, sort of model type shape. You see it on Instagram, these squatting pictures of the women, when they're posing and stuff, and having like a slightly defined stomach. Not shredded, lean. Men, flat stomach, because this question relates more to women than men. Men are asking for how to get rid of belly fat, which we'll be answering as well, but it's very similar to this one. So for men, it's obviously if you're shredded and have a sort of six-pack starts showing. It's not like shredded being like a aesthetic sort of physique type athlete. It's more this kind of model type look where you can see sort of a slight definition of a full six-pack, like underwear models and stuff like that. Right, answering the question of how to get a flat stomach is quite simple. We're going to be looking at two aspects, and the first one is body fat. And you're like, Mark, we know about body fat, but I want to break this down as simple and easy as possible to understand. So we've got two types of body fat. We've got visceral and subcutaneous body fat. Visceral is the one internally surrounding your organs and stuff, and that's also the one when you're obese, which is sort of dangerous and is linked to all the health issues. But the 80% of fat we hold is called subcutaneous fat, and that's the one directly under your skin. And women hold it more or less around the butt and sort of the belly area, and men always hold around the lower abs, sort of abdominal area. So for a male, once you go down to 10% body fat, you will have the 4-pack, but the 6-pack doesn't show yet because the subcutaneous fat is still underneath your skin at the bottom. And for a woman, it's very similar as well. It's the love handles on the side, it's the bum, it's the thighs, it's all subcutaneous fat, which we want to get rid of. So how do we do this? What's the best way of doing that? So now you know the difference between these two body fat types, and what happens is it's not like we can determine which part of fat we want to lose. Let's say we've got flappy arms and we're like, okay, let's do some tricep exercises and then this fat will go. Or I've got belly fat, so I'm going to do crunches, like 10,000 of them, and then that will go. It is not possible to target certain body fat areas of your body to lose fat. That's just the nature of it, the genetic makeup of our body. The best way to determine where you start holding your fat is when you gain fat first. You will see that, let's say your bum increases first, then your arms, then your belly. Or for a man, first the belly, then the arms, then the butt, or whatever. It's the same way you build the fat, it's the same way you're gonna lose it first. So for me, for example, I hold a lot of fat on my back and on my, the love handles and the belly at the front. But as I lean down, which I've done with the 1000 rep and 500 rep challenge, you can see that my front doesn't really change that much, but my back gets shredded like hell. So for me, it's like, oh, but I want to target the belly fat, but I can't. It's not like I can say, I want to target that. I will have to keep dieting down, and then you will see, you will look into the mirror and see where you start losing the weight. It's just a fact. It's very sad, this fact, because most people say, but I want to lose it here. It's just something we cannot change. You go to a doctor and you take a knife and cut it off. That's the only way of doing it. Right. So in order to tackle fat loss, what you will need to do is very similar to the very first video, which was called What is the best way to lose fat? Because it's exactly the same principle here to lose fat. I'm not going to repeat it, so just go to that video and have a look. I'm going to wrap it up here, but for more details, make sure you watch that video. So what I said there is, in terms of exercising, lift heavy weights instead of lightweight. In terms of cardio training, do HIIT training versus LISS, like low intensity running. HIIT training burns more fat after you stop training, you know, the afterburn effect. And heavy weights increase your hormonal response, testosterone, and all the muscle building hormones to then make sure that you release also more fat into your body. Now, in terms of nutrition, what you really need to focus on is that you are in a caloric deficit. Make sure the caloric deficit is a bigger deficit, not just 10%. You should be 20 to 25% in a deficit, and you should diet for a shorter period of time compared to a longer period of time, because the shorter you diet and the more aggressive you diet, in terms of aggressive 20 to 25% deficit, you have more time in the year, over a year, to then start building muscle, because the more you're in a deficit, the less time you have to build muscle. That's a really important factor. As I said, I explained this in the other video a bit more in detail. Now, in terms of sleep, make sure you get 8 hours of sleep, because you want to make sure that you dip into your REM cycles of sleep. That's the deep sleep. We have, you know, 90-minute sleep cycles, and REM cycle is the deep sleep. That's where the magic happens. So make sure you check that. And I always say, go and get yourself a sleep cycle app, because that, you know, helps you track if you have sufficient sleep. And then obviously don't drink caffeine or cigarettes, because cigarettes and caffeine is a stimulant, and that will not make you go to sleep. Simple as that. Let's move on. Now, the second aspect which might come into play when we talk about how to get a flat stomach is water retention. And I wrote an article, a blog post about it, and this is linked hopefully here. If not, go to my website and you just have to search for water retention. Go to my blog. It's one of my recent posts. Now, what I say there, and this is really important, is that there was this experiment done. It's called the Minnesota Starvation Experiment, where they had 36 men which volunteering in this experiment going on a semi-starvation diet for 1,500 calories, plus doing, you know, hard work for 6 months. Very long time. What happened was they lost weight, obviously a lot of fat at the beginning, and then at one point they stopped losing weight. How was that possible? Because they was on this really low calorie diet. And what happened is that because of the stress they were going through, cortisol levels were spiking through the roof, and cortisol holds water. Now, what happened is that they, you know, the researchers said, okay, let's do a refeed day. So they gave them one day, I think, double the amount, like 3,000 calories or 2,500 something. And then the day after, they lost all the water weight, or they all went running to the toilet, because their hormone levels balanced out and it was hitting a bit through a plateau. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that, again, I don't want you to be in a long period of time of dieting. You might be facing like water retention problems. And this is also the part when you do too much cardio, when you do too much weights, when you're too much stressed out in your work and your cortisol levels are through the roof. Cortisol is a hormone which also blocks insulin, blocks fat burning, so many things which cortisol is not good at. But on the other hand, we also need cortisol, but we need it in certain amounts, not too much. Now, in terms of water retention, and that's why sleep is important, because when you go into your REM cycle, you know, when you sleep, deep sleep, the dream sleep, the REM cycle, REM is the rapid eye movement, you know, when you sleep and your eyes are going like all crazy, that's when you're dreaming. That is when your body repairs, and that's what you want. So these are my 2 things, really, in terms of body fat reduction and how to get a flat stomach, is make sure that you target weights and cardio, nutrition and sleep, and that also links together with the water retention bit. I wrote an article on water retention. You can go to my website, just check it out. In terms of all the factors I talked about here in more detail, go to my other video, which was called What is the Best Way to Lose Fat? So I hope this video helped you. If you like these kind of videos, please punch the like button. Ask me any other question you want answered, like the most frequent answers question here on the internet about health, fitness and nutrition. I'm Mark, I'm a sports scientist, and this qualifies me to answer these questions, so I'll see you in the next video.